Cam Smith's epic back nine charge at the British Open allowed him to overtake Rory McIlroy by one shot, and in his words, find out how many beers he could fit in a claret jug. So right after this, let's take a look at a unique move in his downswing and compare it to a couple of other great swings as well. So everybody stay tuned. So who else in the world right now is a better putter than Cameron Smith? I mean, the way he makes putts, you would think that he would never lose a tournament. But let's take a look at his swing, especially this unique move he's got in his downswing and how it compares to some other golfers. Let's take him up to the top. You don't see anything too radical here until right near the top of the swing. You're going to see the club now get kind of tweak across the line right here, and then it starts down a little bit too vertically. You're going to see how long this is what some instructors will call sticking it in the ground. You see how long, if I can draw a line right here, something like this is pretty fair. See how long that kind of laser beam or that line points well inside the golf ball, almost to his toes. So most golfers starting down like this, who aren't Cameron Smith, are in deep trouble right here with the club this steep. This would generally lead to a blocking and flip hooking pattern. Now, as the handle starts to make it out more towards the ball, you can see the shaft start to shallow very late, and now he's got the club. Draw that line again right through the shaft. You can see he's got that thing beyond the ball where it should be at this point in the swing. But he's kind of getting here from that stood up position early on, and so the trend is kind of outwards to get very stuck. And so as the handle now is coming out into right field for a long time, look how inside that club head is inside the hands, with that shaft pointing radically into right field. So most golfers who are here, and there's a lot of good golfers that are here, they would continue the laser beam into right field for too long. The handle would not turn left hard enough. It's really hard to do with this pattern. And you would end up with the shaft kind of getting tall and the face staying open and a bad flip over starting to occur. So let's take a look at now his unique signature move. Again, you can see how that club is dropping way inside the hands for too long. He might be the only guy, one of the only guys on tour who will have this look, and there's a reason. It's just really hard to recover from here. But he does such an amazing job with this unique move. You're going to watch as I advance it. Even here, he looks really, really stuck. But he's recovering. He recovers very late. You're going to see now he's fully recovered through impact, and you're seeing now the handle working really, really abruptly left. And that gets that club to square up without having to flip it. So watch this exit, how the club face, look at that. So now he's right back in perfect position. So he probably only caught up to the curve maybe 6 inches from the ball, but now he's right back on a beautiful handle path, and you see the club face just tracking square to the arc. So this is probably the hardest left handle path you're going to see in the exit. And look how low it comes out, below his armpit, almost at elbow level. But you can also see the club face kind of peeking back at the camera just a little bit right here. So a very unique move by Cameron Smith. He works on this constantly in not getting the handle to drop down so vertically behind them. Now, just a contrast, Here's an interesting swing from Cam Smith about 5 years ago. So he was pretty young back then, maybe just fresh onto tour. But you're going to see he used to be a lot better with the handle starting the swing down. What you're going to see is the handle have more of an out to the ball component early on in the downswing. Not so much sticking it down in the ground, but watch the handle move more directly out towards the ball early on. The shaft responds by shallowing earlier, not so late like in the first swing we see. And so look how much earlier in the swing he gets the shaft to more line up with the golf ball. Much earlier. So his handle path is a little bit more uniform and smooth of a curve rather than that downwards and then outwards and then abruptly back to the left. You're going to see how much better of a position he's in the slot now. But because the handle path is going to work so beautifully left from here, you never see the club get trapped behind the hands at last parallel. Watch this response now. Gets right to his forearm in the deep slot, but now that leftwards handle path is going to make the club tumble and start to catch up. So now look at this beautiful delivery position where the club is just right on his intended line of flight rather than being stuck behind the hand. So there's no catching up. Because the move early on at the beginning of the downswing was so much more rounded on a smooth curve, now that shaft is really on a beautiful plane. And again, watch the exit. Look at that club face as the handle exits more low left. That club face does not have 1 degree of extra rotation. Note where this is here. Look at that angle of the club face, really tracking square to the arc. You're going to compare that to the next swing I show you. Again, look how it comes out parallel to the shoulder line, coming out below the armpit, almost at the elbow line. This is one of the lower exits you will see. And again, very good closure rate. Club face is really tracking square to the arc. It makes a golfer be very consistent. All right, now let's take a look at Rory McIlroy, the guy he beat on the back nine yesterday. We're going to see Rory does a little bit of the same thing, crosses the line a little bit, but this downswing is going to be much different. So Rory's arms kind of sag and they kind of drop under the plane. The club is shallowing, but you can see how inside his arms are, kind of behind him. And now he's going to start coming out to the ball. And you're going to see this isn't as stuck as it looks because the path of the club is working so far in to out. Nevertheless, you're going to see a very different delivery than Cam Smith because Rory does not recover around to the left as sharply as Cam Smith. His handle through the delivery heads more to center field. So I want you to watch this carefully. Watch how inside this approaches. You're also going to see how much taller the shaft is at impact. Shaft is much taller than Cam Smith is because it's not going to make the recovery that Cam Smith does. So watch this handle head not nearly as sharply to the left. In fact, it almost looks like it tracks straight at second base for a long time. And because you see this, I want you to watch the difference in the club face. Check out this angle. If I try to draw, it's a little blurry, but if I try to draw the club face angle, you see how much more flip over has occurred at this point. So there's a lot more closure in degrees than Cam Smith's with a path that's much more in to out. So you're going to see a different exit. Watch it come out at more shoulder level. and a little more flipped over. Now, of course, Rory has, among the best pair of hands in the world. So while this release pattern does get him in trouble, has his whole career with hooks mostly, really bad hooks, he can keep it together for 72 holes on occasion and win big tournaments. And he always seems to be there in the running. And, when he starts freewheeling and his timing is good, he's incredible. But you can see the inherent weakness and the temperamentalness of this style of downswing move and impact zone move. Now, would I recommend this? Yes, absolutely. I would recommend this pattern of downswing into the ball for senior golfers and golfers who are looking for more distance, because it's inside out quite nicely and it turns upwards. Maybe more than almost anybody else on tour, he's able to hit an upstrike and turn the ball over with high launch and low spin. And if you need extra distance, sure, your dispersion pattern might be a little bit higher than Cameron Smith's style of release, but if you're only hitting it out there 200, 220, 230, you need extra distance, well, you're not going to be that worried about a little more dispersion at this point, because you're not hitting the ball long enough to get the ball into a lot of trouble. So you'll play a nice high draw with high launch and low spin that's really going to net you a lot of distance. Once you start hitting the ball out there for a long ways, though, a lot of distance, say 280 or more, this type of release will start to get you in a little bit more and more trouble, because you don't practice as much as Rory, and your hands probably just aren't as fine-tuned as Rory's. All right, lastly, let's take a look at legendary swinger Mike Austin from the top of the swing, and you're going to see kind of a third style. Going to see that he gets his handle moving a little more towards the ball early, and because his right elbow and his right upper arm externally rotate a large degree very, very early, you can see how early this club shaft shallows. So it's a combination of, let's see if we can get this right. Look at this, it's already beyond the ball at this point. So very early shallowing. The club's handle is moving a little bit more out in front of him early, rather than dropping down behind him like Rory and Cameron Smith. So that club shaft responds by shallowing, assisted by more external rotation of that upper right arm to kind of get him into that submarine pitch style delivery, as he talks about. And now the curve of the handle can become very smooth. He doesn't have to save it late. You see it neatly, nicely drop right onto his forearm, just like the other guys. But because of the way he's gotten here, the curve of the handle is going to be a bit smoother and more on plane. You see, coming into the ball, he's using kind of a hybrid between the Cam Smith exit and the Rory McIlroy exit, where he's going to go for a little bit of a rightward swing plane and a little bit of an upward strike. Now, these two things together will equal out and give him a very neutral club path, but he's going to get a little bit of more of a high ball flight, higher launch, lower spin, more distance, which he was always going for. So you see, as this goes into the ball, you're going to see just after impact, the shaft gets a couple degrees taller than Cam Smith's, a little couple degrees lower than Rory's. And so his exit is not quite as severely around to the left as Cam Smith's, but he really doesn't need to have it because he's not trying to save the downswing at this point. So you'll see Mike's coming out kind of in between where Rory's and Cam Smith's is. It's coming out kind of out the armpit right here. So possibly a bit more club face rotation, hard to tell from this grainy video, but a little more club face rotation through the impact zone. but he is trading that for more distance as he gets more upstrike, uses less loft, and goes higher launch, lower spin. Lots of carry, but still lots of roll out at the end too. Hey, I hope watching these three styles and these contrasts and the downswings and the exits makes you a little bit more aware of what you want your swing to look like, and hopefully pushes you towards your goals of hitting it longer and straighter than ever before. I'm Steve. Thanks so much for watching, and of course, as usual, I will either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.